Hi everyone, welcome to this licensing update for the month of July 2021. The fiscal year of Microsoft has ended, and obviously that means that we are entering into a new month with new updates to the product terms and the online services terms, which I want to go through with you. So let's just dive right in. July 1st, 2021, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 6 updates that I want to discuss here, and then I want to move on to an interesting blog post that is circulating around on the internet. So first off, Microsoft Azure Services. There's some updates to this. Big changes here, which you can see now on the screen. There's a license terms precedence added to the product terms, which means that if there's some Azure communication services like private previews and other previews that may be provided under a separate license, such as an open source license. In the event of a conflict between these terms, the separate license will prevail with respect to the communication service that is subject of such separate license. So this is stating that there is a level of granularity to what you are able to use and how you're able to use it. Other additions are defense of claims, stating that you agree to defend, hold harmless, and indemnify Microsoft and its directors, officers, employees, affiliates, and agents from and against any and all demand assertions and legal proceedings brought by any third party, etc., arising from a material breach of these terms by you or your subcontractors, agents, employees, or customers. So apparently, and don't know what the background is here, but apparently there were some claims that were given to a third party or through a third party to a customer of Microsoft, and they probably said, well, that's Microsoft's fault. So they found the need to add this to the product terms. In most enterprise agreements, this is quite common, I would say, but probably there was not any such clause in any CSP or other types of contracts that Microsoft has. So they felt the need to add this to the product terms. It's quite a big entry, I would say. So do take note of this and review this yourself if you are not in an enterprise agreement, because enterprise agreement language would probably prevail over this. Then there's an additional messaging policy. Customers and its end users shall comply with the Azure Communication Services messaging policy. It applies to SMS and MMS communication. I think there's a heavy focus on the Azure Communication Services, so I do expect some big news to come out of Microsoft Ignite in the coming weeks, which is why they're probably adding this now. On the Azure front, there aren't many other updates, but these are quite big. Moving on to Microsoft 365, not a big change. They added terms for the Education Insights Premium offer, including license coverage requirements and the license prerequisites. Well, if you look at that, indeed, it's been added here. And if you scroll down, license prerequisites are probably not there, but it's in the table here listing that you need Office 365 A1, A3, or A5, or Microsoft 365 A3 or A5, as it's an add-on to the education platform of Microsoft. Dynamics 365, a lot of new entries here. There are entries for PSTN services that are provided in Dynamics 365 through the Azure Communication Service, and they added a clause for Azure availability covering Dynamics 365 services. What that looks like. So here you see the Azure availability clause. Certain Microsoft Dynamics 365 services may be available for purchase as an Azure meter. The individual licensing terms for these products are applicable for these Dynamics 365 services. So there's some changes ongoing on the Dynamics front, where Dynamics is being incorporated into the Azure platform as well as metered services, and as such, they needed to expand on the product terms clauses for that. As I said, PSTN services that are acquired through the Azure Communication Services, there's a lot of languages added for this. Don't know if there's a lot of customers currently using this or using the Azure Communication Services through Microsoft Azure, but a long list of changes. So they describe PSTN services, and Azure Communication Services provide services for calling and text messaging to and from the public switch telephone network, PSTN. Azure Communication Services, PSTN services, as a mouthful of services, are provided by the Microsoft affiliate or other service provider authorized to administer them. Pricing for PSTN services may include applicable taxes and fees. So these are not charged to you when you're starting to use the service, but might require additional or will incur additional cost. They added the license terms precedence that was in the Azure clauses as well, the defense of claims and the messaging policy, and some additional clauses around end user information and relationships. So for end user information, except in instances required by law or regulation, Microsoft does not retain information that identifies individual end users. That's quite an important clause. They state that they do not retain this information except as it is needed by regulation in a certain country, for instance. Big changes here. I think it all has to do a lot with what is going to be announced probably with Ignite in the coming weeks. If you have another idea on this, please drop a note, leave a comment. I'd be happy to hear your thoughts on this. Now, the Power Platform. Microsoft added terms for professional direct support here. You can see it is listed in the table. Additionally, they stated the minimum quantity that you are required to buy, which is 20. So if you want to use professional direct support for Dynamics 365 or the Power Platform, you need to buy at least 20 licenses. And there's a 250 maximum. Once met, all remaining users are covered with no additional license required. So if you have a lot of Power Apps users and you need this professional direct support, you only need to buy a maximum of 250, and the others are all covered with with that purchase. Then the online services privacy and security terms, a little update there. Added this little green line. They are formally contained in attachment 1 to the online services terms, so they moved their clauses around a bit again. That attachment is gone. So they list the DPA here as we all already know, which is a separate document. And they added app configuration to the list of Azure services. Finally, Windows Desktop operating system. Windows Virtual Desktop has been renamed to Azure Virtual Desktop. Not a shocking change here. So they changed that in the relevant sections of the entire product terms. So everywhere where there was a mention to Windows Virtual Desktop, it's now Azure Virtual Desktop. And they clarified Windows 10 entitlements that allow users to access Windows desktops on Azure VMs. So if we look at that, indeed you see that Windows Virtual Desktop is now renamed to Azure Virtual Desktop. They added some changes in the Windows 10 multi-tenant hosting around this. And they added some additional language in the bottom here. It stated that certain Windows software licenses include some online services which are governed by the universal license terms for online services, including but not limited to Defender for Endpoint, Windows Update Compliance, and Desktop Analytics. Now, those were the updates for the product terms and online services terms. There was a big blog post circling around on LinkedIn and on the internet by Dan Truax, General Manager Partner, Digital Experience and Programs. A lot of marketing language at first, but where it gets good is where they start to talk about the evolution of the commerce experience for Microsoft. This might not be old news, but as we all know, Microsoft is working towards a motion where they want to move more and more into the Microsoft Customer Agreement. They state that as of today, there's a lot of program-specific offers that you might need an LSP for, or you contract directly through Microsoft, like the EA, Select Plus, MPSA, Open, CSP, or you just procure via the web direct. They want to streamline this. So what they say is we're going to have 3 motions. They call it the self-service motion, the enterprise motion, and the breadth motion. This is not shocking and new, but what they do say is what this breadth motion entails. The breadth motion is the primary purchasing motion for mid-sized and small corporate organizations who typically do not require unique contractual requirements beyond price negotiation. They are serviced primarily by partners in the CSP program, which is the optimal licensing construct for the breadth purchasing motion due to its consistency and scale. The enterprise motion then is the primary purchasing motion for our largest customers, as we have found these deals generally require a high level of Microsoft involvement to support the complex terms needed for these digital transformation deals. They can require special approvals for dual use rights, lead status queues, multi-tenant, multi-affiliate, and more. They require in-depth conversations with Microsoft and the customer to better understand how the changes help and meet the customer needs. And self-service is just buying through the website of Microsoft. So Microsoft is not making any changes to the enterprise agreement or the CSP program today, but they will implement future changes to align how they reward and pay partners. So expect some big changes here as well. Timing for the introduction of new commerce-specific partner incentives and wholesale pricing changes that optimize economics for partners in the breadth motion is still to be confirmed, but as of today, the earliest these changes will be implemented is March 2022. With these future changes, they will align wholesale pricing and incentives to the way Microsoft will sell Microsoft Azure and seat-based Microsoft online services like Microsoft 365, Dynamics 365, etc. Incentives will be graduated through the purchasing motions, and they will have a different set of incentives for partners to continue to engage in the enterprise purchasing motion. So they're not saying that, whereas a lot of partners thought that this would be the case towards the future, that the larger customers did not require any partners or LSPs anymore, they still think that that is a relevant piece of the pie for anything in the enterprise motion. Partner economics in the breadth motion will be optimized for deals below 2,400 seats. And this is the big news, because as everyone that is knowledgeable about the enterprise agreement knows, that the level B threshold on pricing for enterprise agreement is at 2,400. What they're basically saying is that they're going to slowly move all level A customers, so anyone with 2,400 seats or less users within their company, they will want to move that to the breadth motion. Again, level A customers might be moving to the breadth motion, meaning that they will only be able to purchase through the cloud solution provider program, and are basically being forced to contract through a partner. A lot of unclarities are still to be cleared up here, but this is what it probably will start to look like. That same counts towards Azure deals below $1 million or annualized consumption. So if you're using Azure, but you're not using over $1 million a year, then expect that you will be pushed to the Microsoft Customer Agreement and be contracting through partners. Then finally, partners can sell to larger customers through the CSP program as well. but the underlying deal economics on the additional seats or revenue will be less compelling. So again, partner incentives will probably be cut towards the future, as Microsoft has been doing year over year over year. So they added a little schema here where they say the breadth motion, enterprise motion, and self-service motion, what this will look like. Wholesale pricing, partner earned credits, transaction partner incentives are all going through the breadth motion. Azure Partner Admin Link incentive is going through the enterprise or self-service motion, and partner value-added services are still available in all three motions. Finally, over time, they will make the CSP program the primary breadth motion. The recommendation is not only to account for these changes in your current cloud solution provider business, but also for future growth as enterprise agreement contracts that are eligible for the CSP program expire. Basically, what that means is if you are going to renew your contract in the coming year, do so and ask a lot of questions about what it will look like towards the future, because it might be that in 3 years' time, you as a company with 2,400 users or less will be forced to or pushed towards the CSP breadth motion. I don't know yet what this all is going to mean, but what I do know is that a lot of changes are on the horizon. We should be very aware of any publications that they're going to do. I'm very intrigued to see what's going to happen at the Inspire, Ignite, and all the Microsoft events that they were going to host. And with that, I want to thank you for listening. I do hope you find this valuable. If you have any comments, do leave them on LinkedIn or on our YouTube page. And I hope you enjoyed watching this. Thanks again. Bye.